Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Warcraft news. I hope you're enjoying this weird Shadowlands Alpha limbo time. It really could hit any day now, pretty much, and with 8.3 pretty much being wrapped up as well, yeah, all eyes are on Shadowlands Alpha. Still though, we do have a few changes in-game. We've got new cloak upgrades, we've got some also fresh Shadowlands lore from Blizzard's novel excerpts. First though, Patreon. We've got some really good news. Pins are back in production after the virus pretty much shut down, well, the global supply chain for enamel pins. That was quite something. So yes, that's good news, and it's also a new month. This time it's human, so you'll get this great art, and then you'll also get the pre-order for our mage class pin, which will get to you as soon as we receive it. Pin production is still ramping up following the virus, and I expect that April and May's will be sort of shipping as regularly scheduled. So yeah, that's what's up there. Also, the first episode of our TBC retrospective is on Patreon, as is our next lore video. Of course, their help is vital for us, especially in stuff like the TBC series and in the lore. So a massive thank you to them. And with that, let's get going. Well, big surprise, there's a new WoW novel on the way to, lead us into Shadowlands, and we've got a new excerpt from it. So, lore-wise, this is, it all is quite important. 8.3 ended pretty darn quickly, and with there being no 8.3.5, it's pretty much all going to fall to this novel and the pre-expansion event to actually make Shadowlands make sense to players. Of course, relying on a novel to do that is fraught with issues, because most people won't read the novel, so yeah, it does also continue just that tradition of WoW's most impactful storytelling actually being in transmedia narrative content. Seems like that will continue. But anyway, the latest snippet from the novel follows a conversation between Turalyon, Genn, and Anduin, who've came across the bodies in the crypt in Stormwind of fallen Alliance operatives, and they've been killed with Zandalari arrows through the heart. And while the intent is clearly for those arrows to make our Alliance people think that the Zandalari have broken the armistice, it's pretty clear to everyone in attendance, because of the precise nature of the shots, that they're actually likely from Sylvanas' Dark Rangers. Now, this kicks off, honestly, a very familiar argument. Genn is enraged. What a surprise. They sure do define his character based on him being a big angry wolf. And I think angry caged wolf is like one of the descriptors they use. It's a bit wild. So yeah, Genn is just being the same old Genn. He says we gotta muster our forces, go to Zandalar, get the job done, kill Sylvanas. Turalyon, though, takes a different point of view, saying that the armistice, if it means anything, then the Horde will share information that they come across for Sylvanas, and they should trust that. Genn, of course, is not a big fan of that. He even suggests that Talanji might actually still be loyal to Sylvanas, which, pretty much isn't true. He, of course, is apparently flushing red with his whiskers, blustering up, and is being described as being just in a total fury about the situation. So, yeah, with Genn acting like how Genn tends to act, Anduin makes the right call in placing Turalyon in charge of the Alliance forces, tasking him and Illyria with hunting down Sylvanas. So, that's the Alliance's setup. Now, over on the Horde side, as was covered with the other excerpt, Zekhan basically saves Talanji from an assassination, and then the two of them basically go on a quest with each other to thwart Sylvanas' plan to have Nithanos and Syra kill Samdi. Now, for all of this, there's quite a lot to read into. First though, I just want to talk about characters, especially Genn. You may have noticed I was very sure to point out there how Blizzard were portraying Genn again, and it's mostly because I just want to say I'm a bit tired of it. I get it. He's a Worgen. They can get a bit bestial and a bit angry. But for Genn, though, I think this has just resulted in his character being stuck in this loop. It's like we've seen this same conversation with Genn getting angry so many times before, and each time we have it, the point is usually that Genn is wrong and Anduin is right. And on paper, yes, but I guess what's funny is the game events keep on actually proving Genn right in a way. It's just an odd situation. I just wanted to say this because I'd love to see Genn actually break free from this very two-dimensional, simplistic portrayal. Now, I get that this is just a snippet that Blizzard showed us, so hopefully this book will more meaningfully progress his character, instead of just him being in this sort of eternal loop of being a just impulsive warhawk Worgen who's defined by being a wolf, seemingly. Past that, though, I think that having Illyria and Turalyon also makes a lot of sense here as main characters. We can really, hopefully, see through that how both Void and Light deal with death, and if they're going to be key characters, then more screen time with them is essential. I've got to imagine that it's all being set up to provide that Illyria-Sylvanas clash that we've basically all been waiting training for, and that certainly will be interesting. I mean, Sylvanas' new, like, jailer-based death magic, that would certainly wipe the floor with Illyria. After all, death has been said to be resistant to void, so I'm not really sure if there's anything Illyria could do to actually win that fight. I suppose, though, the real question is, what is Sylvanas' plan? What is she trying to achieve by trying to kill Bomsamdi? I mean, Bomsamdi is a powerful enough death entity, but he's not the be-all, end-all of death. From what we know, yeah, he's like a very troll-focused, he's low of death. He does rule over his own part of the Shadowlands, which is called the Other Side, and that actually will feature in the expansion as a dungeon. So it could be that, you know, maybe Bomsamdi does hold the keys to some sort of power that Sylvanas wants, or it could be a simple case of Sylvanas mopping up death entities, getting rid of them. Bomsamdi is likely less powerful than the Lich King, so yeah, it would make sense for Sylvanas to have her subordinates deal with Bomsamdi while she goes and takes out the more powerful foe. Now, if Bomsamdi is subdued and the Lich King loses his power, then you could see how there really wouldn't be that many death entities left over, and that might be a problem for us with Sylvanas' plan. I mean, like, there's Muzala, who's just mysterious, there's Air, who of course does exist, and has had a lot of history with Sylvanas, so maybe we'll see something happen with those characters. But yeah, at any rate, I would expect this to be Sylvanas consolidating her power and trying to preemptively hinder our ability to resist her broader Shadowlands plan by getting rid of our potential allies. Well, either that or maybe there's some sort of power MacGuffin that both, like, the Lich King and Bomsamdi have, and she wants to get them or destroy them, something like that. Overall, though, plot-wise, it does very much look like N'Zoth is just dead, that we then start rebuilding, and that while we're rebuilding, the events of these books happen, and that's what leads us into the Shadowlands expansion. Now, there is one final thing I want to mention here. There's a lot of flack that the authors of these books take, be it Madeline Rue, I think, for this book, or Christy Golden for a lot of the others. And I just want to say here, it's really important to know that neither of those people have control over the narrative whatsoever, even though they're writing the book. Yes, the narrative is from the WoW development team, and then the authors just write the book to spec. So, like, I often see maybe Christy Golden getting flack for the plotline of Before the Storm and Battle for Azeroth, but that's actually entirely missing the mark as criticism, because while Golden did write that book, and, you know, often also write cinematics, the actual story, what actually happens, comes from the WoW team. When it comes to writing any of these books, they are written to a specification, and that specification of what the characters do and what they're like, that's, well, that is from the WoW team, not from the authors. So it's just worth, you know, thinking about it in those terms when we're dealing with this. But anyway, that's the narrative stuff covered, so let's talk about the game. We are about to get our cloaks to rank 15. It won't be long for most of us, but of course, rank 15 is not the end, because defeating N'Zoth on normal or above, or just doing a complete horrific vision run, will soon get you a Melphic core. Now, using the core will increase your corruption resistance by a grand total of 3, and this is capped at 1 per week from the week that people, like, first hit rank 15, but if you fall behind the curve, then you can actually loot 2 of them per week. So yeah, I mean, do this for 10 weeks, you'll have another 30 corruption resistance. Of course, rank 2 and 3 corruptions, you know, they can give you between, what, 5, maybe 10% of your overall character's damage, so you really can see how just, you know, 10 weeks of that will really increase player power. And actually, on that, I suppose, Twilight Devastation, one of those corruptions, has been nerfed significantly. It does reduce damage over 5 targets, and it actually starts shrinking when it hits over 5 targets, and then disappears if it hits 10. So that's a pretty significant nerf. Now, going back to the cloak, essentially it just works like the upgradable Antorus trinket, just that, of course, it's corruption resistant, so it's tied to gear, so the amount of benefit that you actually get from it, I mean, it's entirely going to depend on your corruption RNG, just like most of this patch. I mean, man, it's odd. Like, this gives me a reason to play my single character forever, technically, right? Yet, you know, they still haven't yielded on account-wide essences. I've got another alt or 2 that I'd like to play. Our producer, Matt, has got 3 alts that he'd like to play. But instead, you know, he's playing Final Fantasy XIV. I don't blame him. I'd like to play around with visions and my alts or something like that. But, man, bothering with the whole essence system again in those alts would be such a drag. And then having to get all the corrupted gear on those alts to make them viable. I think this whole situation is one of the most avoidable self-owns, especially the account-wide essences, that I've ever seen the WoW team commit. It just seems like it's complete stubbornness that has prevented them from doing account-wide essences. And it was really weird because, like, even seeing Ian's justification for it, and we've covered this in another video, but his justification was kind of proven wrong by how they've handled some other things in the past. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bit rough. Like, for me with this patch, personally, like, I've just got Curve, and yes, a bit late, but we only started this tier with half of a raid team. We had to build that raid team up, so I've had fun. I've had a lot of fun. I've achieved my goal, though, and I don't see much of a reason to be super into Battle for Azeroth, right? My sights are firmly set in the future now. There's just nothing left in BFA for me. It's as simple as that. Now, on the bright side, Doom Eternal, Half-Life Alyx, Black Mesa, Mountain Blade 2, they're all, you know, either early access or coming out this month. So there'll be a lot to do, and of course, also Alpha. Let's talk about Alpha. Blizzard have been pushing Alpha builds, but nobody outside of the company has got access yet. And as much as speculation is rampant, I mean, that's it. That's all we know, right? Alpha could hit absolutely any day, and it's been like that for a while. Though I suppose at this stage, I really do expect it to hit almost any day. Blizzard really do need to get that testing kicked off as soon as they can. They know it's vital to Shadowlands doing well. We know that as well, and I think they know that we know that. So we certainly, I mean, we're getting uncomfortably late at this stage now that we're hitting March. I mean, even if Shadowlands was a September release date, I'd still feel like this is a little bit late for Alpha. But still, look, I'd rather a November expansion that's really good than an August one that's got BFA-like design issues. Now, the only other bit of data to speculate for dates is based on the book. So, Before the Storm released mid-June, and then BFA released mid-August. Shadows Rising launches mid-July, so a month later, relatively speaking. But to be honest with you, I don't think we can read too much into the expansion's release date from that. I mean, if you're going to be super direct, you could say that maybe means like mid-September. I mean, personally, I am expecting September or October for Shadowlands. And then, actually, as a final tidbit, I want to end this on a positive thing. Blizzard have made it so that if you complete the final objective of the Veil Assault, a portal will spawn in, and that will take you out of that, like, you know, Siege Rorgrimmar under bit to, you know, to the rest of the Veil. So, super handy. And that's basically it for the Warcraft news. I mean, there's not much to do, right? We're just in that limbo period. That's why there wasn't a WoW news last weekend. We're just waiting, right? Alpha is going to be pretty darn soon, and I mean, at least with like my 8.3 content being done, it's just complete laser focus on Shadowlands Alpha. That's what it's really freed up to do now. So that's what I'm going to be doing, and there's still a lot of data I've got to crunch in terms of the feedback that you guys gave, and there's some parts of our approach to that I want to modify and do better for when we're really properly getting stuck into it. So don't worry, those plans are not abandoned. They very much are a thing. But yeah, that's essentially where we are with World of Warcraft. I guess what I'd like to know is, where are you in the game? Right? Like, are you going to be upgrading your cloak to get all that corruption resistance? Are you just going to get Curve and play something else? I'd really like to know just how are you engaging with this patch now that we are, I mean, we're what, a month and a half, 2 months post-release-ish, right? So yeah, now the time's actually passed, I'd love to know just how has this patch been for you, just in realistic scenarios. So let me know, I'd love to hear that. With that, a massive thank you to our patrons. You can check out all the cool physical loot there. And with that, I will see you next time.
Mm-hmm.